Hello everybody, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench, and we're back now with this lovely K2 ambulance build. I've done a little bit of demasking. I unmasked this before. I don't think you saw me do that in part 8. This is part 9 now. The oils had run under a bit, so I removed all that, and that's absolutely fine. I've done the leather on the seat around here. You can see that's all done, so that's all good. And then this leather here you can see is all dry, and as you can see it has that kind of leathery look to it. So, showed you how to do that. Again, I'm going to say it once again, I keep repeating myself, this is not necessarily things you have to do to make the model nice. If you are a complete beginner, just paint it brown. You know, close the doors up, don't paint it at all, whatever. But if you do want to try these little things I'm showing you, this is how I do it, and this is how you can end up with the sort of results that I get. So, first thing I want to do today is do some painting on these stretchers, and then we're pretty much done with painting all the back half of the interior. Pretty much done. We'll start moving on to the green then, and then we really will be surprised how quick it all comes together, I think. So certainly we need to speed things up a bit. I know this is very slow. If you are bored, if you want to fast forward and everything, that's just, you know, that's just fine. But please don't comment below about the video being slow and this, that and the other. The reason it is so slow is because I'm showing people everything. There are many channels on YouTube you can go and watch where it's a bit of music and it's there you go, done. I'm not doing that. The whole purpose of this video series, it's called a beginner's build, is to show people how I do everything. And I have literally shown you everything, and I will continue to show you everything. So that's why it's slow. So going to paint these stretchers. We'll also have some seats to paint later on and stuff as well. What the instructions are recommending is XF49 khaki, or well, they're actually recommending Humbrol 72, which equates to Tamiya XF49 khaki. Because this is for beginners, once again I'm going to do some brush painting, and I'm going to show you this. These Tamiya pots are great. Never throw them away when you finish with them. Let them soak in some alcohol, some IPA, wash them out under the sink, put them in the dishwasher, whatever, and you can reuse them. I've got hundreds of them, and you can reuse them for all sorts of things. As you can see here, I've got Mr. Surfacer ones that I've cleaned out. You know, you clean them all out, you soak them in some IPA, you take the insert out of the lid, soak that, and then you've got a paint pot then to mix things in if you want to in future. But also, you can turn them upside down and you can mix paint in them. So I've got this is the leveling thinner for brush painting again. This means we can actually attempt to do some painting with Tamiya paint. So just got 2 drips in there, 2 drops in there. And I'm going to take some paint from here. I'm going to make up a sort of half decent mix. It's quite thickish. I don't want it really thin and runny. And what I've done here is I've masked off the handles. Okay, I said before that I thought the stretchers were painted green. It looks like they weren't. They were just left natural wood. But then the stretcher material was kind of pinned down the sides. So you can see there I've kind of masked off half the sides. So I'm just going to try this paint on the underside and see what it's like. Oh, lovely. That's great. So we can just paint up to that line there. There we go. We don't have to make too much fuss about painting the bottoms. It's because you're not really going to see it. But if you do look directly in underneath the back, you might see something there. So just paint those out like that, and you can see we got a bit of a liney finish there, so that's absolutely fine. We'll do the ends. Don't want to get the paint too wet on the going up to the masking tape, otherwise it'll capillary under. Capillary means it'll suck itself up under the tape. Okay, and then how are we going to hold this? We need to hold this somehow and paint the rest of the stretcher. How are we going to do that? I guess we can hold it there. So we'll paint the ends first, go down the sides. As I say, don't go flooding it with paint because it'll run under the masking tape. You just want some paint on the brush just to give it some colour. Just like so, and then we'll do the other end, which I've already done. And then we'll come along here and just brush some paint into there. And if it does go into the masking tape, I don't think it'll be a massive issue because it should easily be rubbed off. And then we can come along to the top and then we can get some proper decent amount of paint on the brush. Just brush it out. And again, we don't want a perfect finish. You're not trying to achieve a perfect finish here. We want a blotchy kind of see-through kind of finish. Right, so we've got the whole area covered in paint there. So now I can just brush down the length, just like that. Just like so. There we go. You can see there we've got that sort of uneven finish, and then when we come afterwards with some oils and stuff, we'll make that look really good. So I'll get the other ones painted. You don't need to watch me sit and watch me paint all them, and then we're going to do some scratching stuff. And there we go, there's all the stretchers painted. You can see this one's still got some wet paint on it. Underneath and everything still wet. So we're going to put those to one side and let them dry. And as you can see, when it does dry out, you end up with this kind of this liney finish. You can see the black primer underneath it. And if you think about it, that's the kind of look you want. It wouldn't just be one colour, you know. It would be when it's brand new, but when it's been folded up, maybe it's got a bit damp. You know, it's just kind of how it would look. And even if you're using artistic license, it's just making it all a bit more interesting rather than just having everything just all painted one colour. But as I said earlier, if you're a beginner and you want to paint it all one colour, you fill your boots. Right, so if you remember when we did this, I talked about chipping. So what we're going to do now is paint this and then chip some paint off and wear some paint off, like where the driver's feet would be, where the people would get in from the sides here, where people would walk through this door. Now obviously this area here where the door is, you would get more traffic going through here than you would through here because the driver's sat there. So the floor, the paint would be more worn on the floor here and here than it would be here. There probably won't be anywhere at all here, maybe just a tiny bit on the edge, because that's where the spare wheel goes and that's where the driver's seat is. So, you know, we have to think about this logically. Now, I think I mentioned before, I've painted this in like a steel colour. And that is so when I chip the paint, because this area here is steel and this area is planks of wood. So when I chip the paint, if I go over the edge, it will show some steel. I'm not going to go mad with it, but it's just so that on the edge it will show some steel rather than being the black. It's probably a little bit too bright, but we shall see how it looks when it's done. We can always tone it down. I'm not going to be chipping here because this is obviously a bulkhead that probably wouldn't get worn at all because it's not going to get worn. You know, this isn't going to be a heavily beaten vehicle because otherwise we'd be doing denting and all sorts of things on it. We're not doing that. That is going too far. So it's just going to be sort of, you know, it's been in the field a couple of months. It's got a bit of wear. It's going to have a little bit of mud on it and stuff. So we'll go from that. Right, so the first thing we need to do for chipping is apply something that allows us to remove the paint. And I'm going to use this. This is Tresemme No. 3 Salon Finish Volume and Lift Hairspray. Yes, hairspray. And I'm just going to lightly coat it with hairspray. And I'm going to do this. So I'm going to get myself one of these external holder things and hold that in there. So I'm going to do this and these, and we're going to chip them. Okay, now what I'm tempted to do is glue that into there before I do this, rather than do it individually. Let me never think about that and I'll come back. What I'm going to do, this Tresemme is so old, the can no longer sprays really, so I've got to just drip it into my airbrush and use the airbrush to apply it. So let me think of what I'm going to do here. Okay, so I've decided to glue these pieces in. Now when it comes to this part here, which is basically the support for the spare wheel, it's shown going in there, and we've got that little bracket on the top which is already glued on, so that's going to get glued into there. And then we've got over here, we have the, I'm guessing the passenger seat. I don't know what it'd be called, probably not the passenger, but that seat's going to go up there. So that's this one, we've got the detail on the front of there. You can see that's all wood grained. And then they're telling us here to assemble the seat onto the base. Well, I'm not doing that because I don't want to paint the seat green. So we've got the base here, and we need to make sure we've got the little L shapes towards the centre of the vehicle. So that's going to go in there, that's going to go in there, and that's going to go in there. So we're going to glue those in. Now, because we've got lots of paint and stuff on here, what we're going to do is come along with a little pointy tool and scrape some paint away around these little corner pieces. And then when we put this in, that will enable us to get a good solid weld, at least on those two corners. Okay, and I'm also going to come along with a sanding stick, just remove the paints and oils from the bottom of there. So now we can glue that in, and we know that we're going to get a good solid weld. Remove that dust from there. We're going to get a good solid weld in those corners. So I can come along with my Tamiya extra thin and just touch the brush into that corner, and then hold the seat down, come around to this other corner, and there we go. We can put some glue down behind because you're not going to see down in there once the side panels are on. Okay, so that's that glued in place. And then the same here, I'm going to remove paint from there, remove paint from there, and remove paint from there. So you can see how that looks now with the paint removed. You can see through to the black and the brown plastic. And then again, I'm going to sand the back of this. Oops, dropped it on the floor. Where did it go? There it is. And another little tip for you guys, for the beginners, when you're holding stuff to paint it, quite often you have to hold in an area where you want to paint. Look for somewhere that won't be seen. You see on the back here, you can see where I've been holding it, so there's no paint. If I put that down on there, you're not going to see the back of it. So, you know, if you hold it in areas where you're not going to see, then the rest of it can be perfect for you. So that's in place there. So now we can come along with our glue. We can put some glue in there, and we can put some glue down here. On this one, actually, we can put some glue on the inside of it, so that's going to allow us to glue it and not make any mess. There we are. So that's glued over. I'm not going to squeeze it. If you squeeze it, it'll come oozing out. Just going to leave it, let that cure, and that'll be fine. And then when it comes to the driver's seat, again, we're going to scrape away paint down here. Scrape away the paint down there. And the reason I'm doing this, the reason I'm gluing these on now, is what we're going to do, we're going to be rubbing the paint away, the green paint, to expose the wood. Now obviously, if I rub the paint away here, when I put this box down, you're going to see the rubbed paint going right into that, underneath that seat. And that's not how it would be. The area, the driver's feet would never be right into the corner. It would be perfect green in the corners, but the area is sort of knocking up to it, and the corners of these boxes may well be chipped. So that's what we're going to look for achieving. Again, I've almost forgot again, sand the back of this box. Remove the dust. And then fit that box in place. And then a drop of glue down in there. And then the same over here, a drop of glue down in there. And that's glued all the way around. I can see it's capillaried all the way around. So I'm just going to put another drop of glue on there. I can't remember if I glued that back of that or not, but we can make sure it's glued. So there we are. Job done. So what we can do now is get some hairspray on this. So I'm going to decant some of the hairspray into my airbrush, and then we'll do some spraying. Right, so as I say, if you've got the hairspray, This one is knackered, it's just the paint just comes out, the airspray just comes out as one little jet, so it's no good. But if you have it as a new can and it works, you can just spray it directly from the can. Just make sure you get into all the angles. So I'm having to decant into my airbrush and do it like that. So what I do is just paint this onto here, and it doesn't really matter about the finish, it doesn't matter how perfect or bad it is, but you do want to make sure you get it in all the little angles and everything. Okay, so make sure we come in for the side of the box there, the front of the box, that side of the box, that side of the box, get the front of that driver's seat, get down around that centre console area, make sure we've got all the floor done. Okay, and there we are. And I think that is everything. I don't think I need to paint chip anything else. Just make sure. No, because all we had was these wooden parts in the cab area here. Make sure you get down the sides there. I'm just using air now just to spray, just to dry this hairspray out. And then once we've done that, we can go and put another coat on. Making sure we get every single nook and cranny, every single corner. I'm going to put some more hairspray in here. You can see how it comes out now. You can see that's no good for hairspraying. And the reason I use that Tresemme number 3 is that is what Michael Rinaldi recommends. Michael Rinaldi is an A1 class modeler. Absolutely incredible guy. And that is what he recommends. So we are. So that is now coated in hairspray. Unfortunately, what's left in there is going to have to go to waste. I can just spray some down here, can't I? Just make sure we get in all the angles. And the rest of that I can just spray out into my cleaner. And then we're going to leave that for about an hour, and then we'll paint it with some green paint. Just a quick little sideline here. I was thinking when we spray this bulkhead, we want to make sure that everything that's going to be on that bulkhead is going to be there. And this little support here for the spare wheel, so I've glued that on. The way I've done that, I've got the spare wheel, placed it in position so that it's sitting down on the wood and up against that wedge, held it in place, and then glued this on so that it's just sat there against the tyre, as you can see there. And then just roll the tyre out carefully and then just let that set. So we'll leave that to set. That's got to be, we've got to wait for the hairspray to dry anyway. So I'll probably put a little bit of black primer on there just so it doesn't sort of jump out. And then after I'll come back and we'll do the green painting. The stretchers are also drying nicely, so they're going to be ready for some oils and stuff soon. So we can, because it's a matte paint, it's porous, it will soak up the oil and we can get some blotchiness and maybe some staining and stuff on them. So that's all good. And then really we're sort of basically, other than doing these backrests here, we're sort of pretty much there. All this is done, so we're going to start actually building the whole thing up soon. So it's gonna come together very, very quickly, I think, as I say. So we'll let that dry, get that painted black, and then I'll come back and see you then. Okay, we're back. Busy old hour. So I've painted that little bracket there black, as you can see. We've masked off all the rear end. I've got a nice straight line across the bottom there, because the floor back here is wood and the floor up here is painted green. If you remember, that's covered in hairspray. I've also, what else have I done? I painted the seat. Remember we had that great big undercut in the back of the seat, so I've got rid of that. So I've painted the seat again, and I've got the door all masked up on the white side, and I've got that glued down, or blue tack down onto a piece of wood so I can hold it. I've got this here I can hold absolutely fine. Stretchers are good. For some reason there's one little area of paint there that doesn't seem to be drying. Very, very strangely. I've never seen that before. So that's probably a result of using that product, the levelling thinner for brush painting. I don't know. We'll see how long it takes to dry. It should dry out. I see no reason why it should stay wet. But very strange. So that's that. We've got our leather seats and everything. We've got our chassis over there. So what I'm going to do now, the same as we did with the back in here and with the doors and everything, I want to do some pre-shading just to add a bit of interest into the cab area, so when you look in it's going to look good. As I say, you don't need to do this, you can just paint it green. I quite probably normally wouldn't bother, to be quite honest with you, but I want to do it just to show you the effects you can get and how well it looks, how good it looks. I'll get my piece of very dirty tissue paper. Just going to check my flow, it's absolutely fine. Right, so I'm just going to inside the panels. Come on, you going to spray anything or not? Inside the panels I just want to add some light colour. There we go. I just want to add some light colour into the areas like that. That's it. The paint is actually a little bit thick. I need to add some more thinners. So I'm going to add a drop more thinners and then I'll come back. Okay, I've added some more thinners, so it should spray a bit nicer now. Very strange. It is spraying a lot nicer now. It's very spattery. I think my airbrush needs a good clean. Either that or my nozzle has had it, because it is very old. But I've basically got that fading there, so it's just going to show through on the green paint. We'll do the same on the back here. This bit up here is going to be hidden, so we'll see what's going on with this paint. It's playing up, and I don't know why. It is very much playing up. Maybe that's a bit better. So now we can just get this. I just want to pick out the areas where there's going to be a large mass of green paint. And it just adds a bit of interest. Just adds some. Okay, so that's basically all I'm doing is that, just to add some interest to it so we see it on the green paint, and the same in the sides here. Because otherwise when you look in you're just going to see a big lump of green. This paint is still too thick. It must be about 70% thinner. It's very strange. And you can see there I've actually fitted that's the rifle holder, part D10 I think it was. Was it D10? D10? What part number was it? D10. My memory hasn't gone yet. Right, so there we go. So that's that done. I'm just going to put a little bit of black around that rifle holder before I do anything else. But we could just add a green colour in here. I think my airbrush has finally had it. It's about 11-12 years old. I generally say 10 years old just to be on the safe side, but I think it's about 11-12 years old, and it's never had a single part or seal or anything replaced. So there we are. So there's our lighter colour there. Just do some more on this door. So we'll get rid of that, we'll put that back into the pot, which a lot of people go, you can't do that. Yes I can, because I'm just about to. There you go. Done. So there we are. Right. So that was Tamiya XF76 I've used there. And we shall use that again on the exterior. So I'm going to give my airbrush a really good clean, get that little bit of black painted, and then I'll come back and we'll do the green. Okay, so we're ready now to spray our green. Now for this I'm using, as you know, the AK RC037. This is the SCC 15 olive drab, which is the correct colour for a later war vehicle. It's not the US olive drab, it's a different colour. It's an SCC 15 olive drab. Later in the war, very late in the war, they changed them all to the US drab colour, I believe. But anyway, we're going to be spraying this interior with this green colour. Now, if you remember, I put hairspray on there. So what we're going to do after the paint is dry, we're going to use some water and we're going to actually remove the green paint to expose the wood underneath, so it's going to look scratched and worn. So if you want to do that, you can't use lacquer thinners. You can, some people do, and they're successful with it, but generally it's better to use something like this, which is a very weak acrylic thinner, and that'll make sure that the paint will come off okay. So I've got my paint in here, and as you can see, I'm going to put the airbrush back through it. Now, I'm not even sure if this paint likes being thinned with this thinner, so I'm just going to do a quick test bit on here, because this is the inside of the outer and it's going to go up against the inner, so we're not going to never ever see it. So I'm just going to do a little test down here and see how it sprays. And it seems right. It seems a bit sort of orange peely, but then this plastic's quite rough anyway. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. It doesn't seem to like mixing with that thinner. So I guess what I could do is actually use the AK thinner. Let's see how we get on. I think it's going to look fine. It doesn't seem to... It's going to be okay, I think, for the inside anyway. But we're only using this thinner because we want it to come off. Now, I haven't actually done anything here, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I'm just going to spray this. And you should be able to see that light green showing through. You can just see the light green showing through. That's the sort of effect we want. We want it to just so... Oh, I don't think this thinner is liking this very much. That's what we're seeing. We want to see this light green just showing through. It just gives it a bit of a kind of shady effect, like you can see on there. It's actually a lot more pronounced on the camera than it is in real life, believe it or not. Slightly go over that again. There we are. Okay, so that's those bits done. So now we can do the door. I keep blowing back through just to mix this paint up nicely. So just lightly cover the door. You can just see the light green showing through there. So that's cool. We'll do the same up here. We get inside the door frame there, and then we'll go over here again. If you notice, I'm not stopping with the airbrush, because when you stop, that's when you get the risk of spatter. So if you don't stop, you just do it like this, you'll be absolutely fine. As you can see there, we've got the light green showing through again. It is way more pronounced on the camera than it is in real life. So I'm just going to go with another coat. It's given us a kind of, as you can see, it's given us that kind of, it's not just one colour. Right, so now we're going to do this floor area, so we're going to make sure we get in all the angles and everything, and we want to get this a good coverage of green paint on here. Make sure we get those edges when we think of it. I'm just going to build it up slowly, give it 2 or 3 coats. You don't want to be flooding it, because if you flood it you'll reactivate the hairspray. That's the thing, the hairspray will be reactivated by any liquids, including water. So what we're doing now is we're spraying the paint on here onto the hairspray. I think what happens is the paint dissolves the hairspray and mixes in with it, sort of thing, and then when it comes time to remove it, what you've got is a sort of paint and hairspray mix that is easily removed with water. If you leave it too long, it won't come off, as I found out on my Lancaster, which I never realised. In all my years of modelling, all the years of doing this, I thought you'd be able to go back and just anytime you want remove it, but you can't. If you leave it too long, it won't come off. Just clear the airbrush out. Just get some green paint down here on the floor. Making sure we come in from every angle. And there we go, that's that done. As we can see, we're getting quite an effective looking little cab now, and we can see that pre-shading showing through there. It's a lot more pronounced on the camera than it is in real life, but it's very, very subtle. It just gives it a bit of interest when you look in there, rather than just looking at green. You've got that, there's just those different shades, and we can see it there on the door. No, it's not so pronounced on the camera, that one, for some reason. That's a bit weird, but there we go. So that's that. We've got it on there as well. You can just see the lighter green underneath. So I'm going to pour this away. I'm not going to put that back in the pot because I don't think it likes it very much. So but that's that done, and we're going to leave that now for a few hours, and we will, in fact I may as well, because I've got this green paint in here, I may as well use it up under here, because this would have all been painted green as well. Rather than waste it, eh? We'll use it. I don't really want to go too much in the sides, because you've got all sorts of bits and pieces going in there. I'm going to have to scrape it off, and when you do that it tends to leave marks and stuff, so it's better to not have to do that. I think this wall underneath is done as well now. That's cool. And a tiny little bit of paint left, so I think we'll just blow it over once more, get a bit of a dry coat on there. And there we go, we're out of paint now. So there we are, there's our cab area done. So we'll come back 12 hours, 18 hours, and we'll have a go at doing some paint chipping. We'll see how it comes out. So I'll see you then. A couple of seconds for you. It's going to be 12-18 hours time. Okay, so here we are, 18 hours later, and as you can see, I haven't touched this at all. So I do not know how this is going to go. So if it goes well, you'll see it on video. If it doesn't, you probably won't. So I'm just going to put some water on the bench there. You could use a little bowl or whatever if you want to. I'm just using an ordinary paintbrush. I'm just going to wet the floor where we put the hairspray. around these wooden boxes. Just get it wet, and then the water will soak into the paint. As you can see, what is nice here, sometimes the paint tends to the water tends to break on the surface, and if that happens, if it just puddles up on the surface, then you can put a little tiny drop of soap in it, a little tiny drop of fairy liquid or something like that, washing up liquid in it, and that will give it some surface tension. So what we're going to try and do here is actually remove some paint. So I'm wetting this again, and as you can see already on that corner there, it's a great indication. You can see on the corner of that box where I'm putting the brush now, you can see, if I move this light up a bit higher, you can see that the paint is starting to wear away. And as you can see, if I brush this now gently, I can chip that paint away, I can wear the green paint away, and rather than trying to add the chips afterwards, it looks a lot more realistic because I've worn that paint away. Now this floor area here, it's going to be quite difficult because it's coming off quite easily, and that's always a shame when it comes off easily. So this area of the floor here will be pretty worn. And as you can see, the problem is it's coming off very easily. So what I'm going to do here is get a cocktail stick and just try and remove little bits of paint, and then when it's drier we should be able to brush over it then, and it will just soften the edges. You can see here that what I'm doing is just using the cocktail stick just to chip the paint, and make it come away like so. Now I think one of two things has happened here. I've got too much hairspray on there. You can see the paint is all wrinkling up down here in the bottom. I've put too much water on there, or both. So you can see here how easy it is to go wrong because I've done it on camera. So what I'm going to do is let that dry out and then come back to it. But as you can see, we've got that worn away paint look there. Which is giving us the effect we're after. But as you can see, the paint is all wrinkling up down here. I've put too much water on there. We need to let it dry out, and then I'll come back and give it another go. Okay, so it's all sort of dried out a bit now. So what I'm going to do is just slightly wet it. Okay, so I'm not soaking it. I'm just, you can see here, just getting it damp. And then with this stiffer brush, I should be able to, there we go, we can scratch the paint away. Maybe this brush would be a bit better for it. What we're trying to do is just achieve a worn look where the paint is actually worn away and exposing the wood. And you can see now that with it less wet, you can see down here we're getting a far more realistic result than we were getting up here. But I'm going to show you how to get it back. Okay. You can see there the steel coming through on that corner. We have to remember that when they come up here they would step from here up onto there, so there wouldn't necessarily be much chipping in that area, so perhaps we'll come in with this brush and just break the surface up a bit. There we go. So you can see you can get this sort of realistic look where the paint is worn away. Now whether you think it's realistic or not is sort of up to you, but just going to damp this area a bit and just take some paint away from there. There we go. And then where the driver's feet have been, obviously got the pedals here, so we'll wet those, and then we've got, let's dry this brush off on my hand, we've got this area under here, And we've got some of the wood back here, and then we'll have where the driver would be getting in. So as you can see, with less water it's working better. It's always it's something that you will learn yourself what to do. I've done it where I've waited too long. I've done it where I haven't put enough hairspray on. I've done it where I've put too much hairspray on, which I think is partly what I've done here. But then also the different paints with different thinners will respond differently. You know, I've never done this before with AK Real Colour, so it could be that that's what the problem is here. But we can see here that I can remove this paint and expose the steel underneath where the paint is worn away where his feet have been. So I just actually want to get a little bit of paint exposed there. There we are. There's going to be a throttle coming down here as well. So we would probably get some wear on that wheel arch in there. There we go, we can get some nice worn away paint in here where they've been stepping in. If you want to go a bit quicker, you can take this stiff brush. You can see that this will knock the paint back a lot quicker. Or you can take a cocktail stick, just scrape it away like that, and then come in with your softer brush and just soften up the edges. Just like so. We're going to take some paint off of that wheel arch. I'm just using the cocktail stick to break the surface, and then the stiffer brush to additionally break the surface, and then the so you can see in there now we have got, and then on those pedals what we'll do is wear the paint off of those pedals, because obviously they're going to be, the paint's going to be worn off of them obviously. And if you feel it's starting to get a bit sort of, you know, it's coming off too easy, just stop, let it dry, and then go back to it. Like here, it looks like it's all becoming a little bit soft and easy to remove. So I'm just going to leave it to dry, and then I'll go back to it. Over here, I can work on this again. And then that edge is going to be super chipped. Same over here, get some water on there. You can see the paint starting to come away. Just like so. And as I say, if you want to soften the edges up, you can just tap at it with a stiff brush like so, and it'll there we go. So there's our worn out floor. Now how far you want to go depends on what you want to do, but there we go. And you know, just like I say, just think about it logically. The driver's going to get in here, he's going to wear the paint off of the floor there, and then he's going to wear the paint off of the floor under the pedals. I'll take some more off of there actually underneath there. Obviously It'll be more worn under the clutch than it will under the brake. Okay, so there you can see we've got the paint worn out where the people's feet have been. And now we can go in with washes and stuff. The other thing you can do, and I'll probably show you this in a second, is come in with now with an airbrush with the green paint again and just go around the edges and soften, because where we've got this harsh edge here where I got it too wet here, this harsh edge here doesn't look accurate. It's a bit too harsh and I want to soften it up a bit. I don't know if I can do it with a brush now. So this front of this box can get a little bit chipped. The edge of that step would also be chipped where people have put their heels up on it or whatever. You can see the front of that box is a bit worn out now. Not worried about the side because we can have a side panel going on there. We can you can see the drier it is, the harder it is to get off. So there we are. That's how we're doing that. I think maybe there would be a little bit more paint off of here, where they step down to get around that door. Because remember, the door is going to be sort of open here. Kind of assuming the crew would get in. The nurses or whatever would, you know, to get in the morning. I'm assuming they would go this way rather than in the back door. There we are. That's a bit better. And there we go. So what I'll do is let that dry now for a good sort of 6 or 7 hours, let it really dry out and harden up, and then maybe try and soften the edges up or something. But I will show you whatever it is I do. But you can see there we have the worn out paint on the floor. We could do some washes and stuff as well, add pigments and all sorts. So you could, the sky's the limit, but you know, I don't want to go too far with this because it is for newbies. The other thing I need to do actually is make sure that I've removed all the paint up to that masking tape, because you wouldn't have a nice band of clean green paint. So I can remove that masking tape now. You wouldn't have a nice band of clean green paint between the two floors. You would obviously have just the demarcation between the two woods. Being the plywood of the back and the plank of the front. You see I've got a nice demarcation line there and I don't want that. So get some more water on there. Just scrub that away. There we are. So we can see now that it was at one time painted green, because we've got the edge on the corners. But there we are. Happy with that. We can see plenty of our wood grain coming through, and as I say, we can add to it and take away from it and do all sorts. So I'll see you later for that. Okay, here we are 24 hours later again now, and as you can see this is all nice and dry, all dulled down now, so we're going to leave that like that. That's absolutely fine. I was going to soften the edges, but I actually like the look of it. I think it's going to look great. So these stretchers, and I've painted these seats, the driver's seat, and then we've got the backrests that go into the rest of the cab there, and I've also painted the base of the seat there, the cushion on the seat, should I say. So what I'm doing is, just because it's just like one colour, as you can see there, it's just that one sort of khaki colour, I'm going to add a bit of interest. So what I've got here, I'm going to try this, is some NATO Olive number 46 Revell. Let's put the light on for you. And so I've got here in the palette, I've got some of that paint, and then I've got some water. So we're going to add some water to it and make a very, very thin, very, very thin paint. Almost like a wash. You can see I'm pulling it up the sides here, you can see how thin it is. It's almost like this is the same as that now. Okay, and then we'll just try it, experiment on the bottom, see how it looks. And all it's going to do is add some tonality, a little bit of a change of colour to the actual. You can see now the slight, very slight change of colour. Just going to add a little bit of interest, and it's going to pick up in any details. So we'll do it on this driver's seat. Just like so. And we will be using some oils and washes as well. But I just want to give it a, this will just sort of level everything out, and as you can see it's kind of picking up in the edges. I'm going to get rid of any bubbles if we can. As you can see there, it's going to pick up in the corners and the gaps and stuff, and then when it dries it should look quite good. Just do the same on these backrests here. Plenty on there, and then it can sort of float its way around. And because I don't want to forget it, I'll do this one as well. Let's go around the edges there. There we go. Put a drop more on the top, let it float around. And then I'll just do the same on these stretchers. Just hold the corner there, just brush it out. And then, as I say, what we'll do afterwards is come in with some brown oils and stuff and try and sort of make them look like used, stained, whatever. You can see here, this Revell paint, it doesn't really matter how much you put on, it just dries back beautifully. It's really good stuff. It's very, very user friendly. Okay, so just do that on all of those. And then, you guessed it, let it dry. Right, so that's dry. As you can see, it's left this sort of blotchy finish, and what I've done just before it's completely dry, gone over the cotton bud and just rubbed to get that sort of uneven. You can see we've got the uneven colour on there now. It's all a bit blotchy. So again, this is not beginner stuff, this is taking your model to the next level stuff. So I've got some brown wash here. Let's get a drop more in there. So this is the Modeller's World oil wash, and this is the light brown. And as you can see, I've got a nice big brush here, and I'm going to once again just come over here and just flood it on. And what it'll do, it'll pick up in all the little nooks and crannies and corners, and as you can see, it sort of gives it a bit too much on there actually. Let's get some of that off of there. Wow, this brush does soak up a lot. And then literally just brushing that out like that, as you can see. Just get some more off of there. And what you want is enough on there so it can sort of float its way around. Make it look very uneven, which is what we're after. And we've got these little backrests here. Just give them a quick once over. And then we have the passenger seat or the nurse's seat or whatever it is, I'm not sure. As you can see there now, the oil will rush into the corners of the seat. It just gives it something else, gives you something else to look at, rather than just having a brown seat. You can see there. So again, now we'll leave that to dry, and then we can move on and start looking at building all this lot up. About bloody time, they say. Right, so yeah, as I say, we'll leave that to dry then. Might do a little bit of dry brushing on it, but other than that, we're pretty much done. I'm going to go on and do some detail painting. Got this little support here. Where's my pointy thing? We've got some hinges here, and we've got that support thing in the middle, but I'm going to glue it all to the door first and see how it all looks. Now on the back here it's all clear. What I'm going to do here is, with my round blade, I'm going to remove paint from there. Remove paint from there just to get us back to the beige plastic. And with my pinny pointy thing, just go in there and do that. And then the other thing we could try actually is giving this door a quick go over with that light brown wash, see how it looks. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Sort of just picked up in the detail. And then roll a cotton bud over it. If you roll a cotton bud over it, it doesn't wipe it all off, it just sort of soaks it up and leaves a blotchy fin. If you wipe it, you just end up rubbing it all off like that, which may be the effect you're looking for, which I actually think looks quite good. Yeah, like that. So this is the thing, you see, when you've got the oils and everything, you just play with them. There's no set regime the way you're supposed to do it. You just do it the way you want to do it, and if it doesn't work, just wipe it off. So I'm going to get that assembled. I'm going to remove some paint from those lugs, so they've got something to stick to, and then we'll get some glue in there and get these glued together. So move these out of the way. They're starting to dry already, those. Take some extra thin, some in there and some in there, just to drop them on the brush. Okay, there's a little bit too much in there. It's probably going to ooze out, but we won't be able to see it anyway. Okay, so that's that in place. And then this is going to be quite difficult to glue. I've just moved that seat and left a great big brown smudge there. Look. Not to worry. It would be on the it's on the hinge side, so it's not really going to be seen, but you can see there, that's where you've got to be careful. I've moved it and it's left a big brown smudge where the glue has melted the paint behind it. Not quite sure how I'm going to do this. I'll use some of this white glue. Drop on there and a drop on there. And then drop this on the top. And I guess that'll work. But we'll go from underneath, just a drop of extra thin, just a tiny drop, and then don't touch it. and that will hopefully capillary up under there. So you can see now we've got our door, which is looking very interesting indeed. Quite a busy little assembly, that. Okay, so I've been playing a bit here and didn't realise I didn't put the camera on. I thought I was recording, I've been talking to myself. So, doing a bit of work now with some black brown wash in here and a finer brush. So we take our khaki seat base there, as you can see, and if we just put a drop of the oil, come on, into each corner like so, you can see it capillaries around and it stays in the corners. You can see there, it stays in the corners of the seat. Okay, same on the driver's seat. Come in here, put some across the back. You can see it runs around the edge. We can put some down here, put some down there, just like so, and just leave that to dry. Okay. Then with the stretchers, you can see I've already done some. As I say, I had the camera off when I thought it was on. So actually I can move forward now and show you what I'm going to do. So we take a soft cotton bud rather than a hard one, and just using the cotton bud, without, you don't want to go in sweeping motions, just blot onto the stretcher like that, and you can end up with this uneven sort of finish, just like that, just down the sides as well. Okay. And there you go, we've got this uneven, varied finish now, rather than just having the brown finish on there. And everything is all working, you know, you're probably wondering why I'm doing all these different steps. Everything is working with each other. That thinned Revell paint, believe it or not, you can see that under there because it's dried lighter than the actual paint that's painted on. So it's giving a, basically what makes things look authentic is really more what you can't see than what you can, in my opinion. You know, you could dry brush that with some light grey paint and you will see the light grey edges, whereas with this you don't really know what you're looking at, but you know it looks effective. You know, it looks that kind of uneven. It's got bits of dust and stuff in it, which is bad on my part, but there we go. You can see, and then if you know, this is what I'm saying with these oils, you can rub it off if you want to. You know, you could do whatever you want with it, but you still end up with that blotchy sort of uneven finish, which is what you want. Now on the bulkhead here, I've gone on and painted this a red brown colour. I'm assuming this is a light switch, and I'm assuming it would have been Bakelite, so I painted that red brown, and then I've literally come in with this wash and just touched it into the corner just to go around there, okay, just to make that look like a bit grubby, where hands would be touching it. And as you can see, that seat is starting to dry where we put that wash on there. I've put a wash on the back of here. I've painted the hinges and everything on there black, and then I've also put a wash around here because that area there will be quite grubby. We will do a complete wash of this area and in the back and everything when it's sort of assembled. So basically that is that for now, and I think that's going to be that for this video. I'll let that dry and then I'll show you how it looks after I've done it. Right, so about half an hour later now, and this oil on this seat, as you can see, has dried. So what I'm going to do is with a soft cotton bud, when I say soft and hard, these have a wooden centre stick and they're fairly small, so they're quite hard, whereas these are the paper ones and they're quite soft. These are like the Johnson & Johnson's, these ones here you can get in all your normal shops. And these are wooden ones kindly sent to me by Simon Cousins. So thank you very much, Simon. So basically what we're going to do with this cotton bud is lightly wipe over this seat and not pushing too hard, just lightly, and you can see that what it does, it leaves that, turn it around to get that on this side, it leaves that wash down in the corners and it makes the top look a lot lighter. Now when that's dry further, we'll give it a dry brush and it will make it pop even more in the centre, because as you know, things will fade, and they generally fade in areas where they're worn, and as they wear they become lighter. And also it's again artistic license, you're just making it all look a bit better. Now I can't do the driver's seat yet because you can see down in the back there it's still glossy, so I can't do that, so I'll leave that to dry. I've gone on and stuck on this piece here, this backrest for the seat, and I've also gone on and stuck that one on there just to get them off the sprues. You can see down the bottom here, because I painted them on the sprues, we have that area of yellow plastic there, but you're not going to see it because when it goes, we also have the same on this one underneath there. I don't know if you can see it, there's a yellow spot. So we can put that together like that. Postman's just been put that together like that, and you can see that you can't actually see that yellow spot under there at all. So that's how that's going to look when that all goes together. So that's going to be that for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon for part 9, is it? I can't remember now which part this is. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe if you've liked the video, and I'll see you all very soon for another one. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.